Welcome back to Outside Views. I'm glad you've tuned in because today we're diving into another pressing issue caused by Brexit, an issue that once again highlights why many people, myself included, see Brexit as a fundamental mistake. And this time our attention turns to Northern Ireland again, where the latest Brexit regulations are threatening to leave supermarket shelves empty. Ever since the Brexit transition period ended, Northern Ireland has faced unique challenges due to its complex relationship with both Great Britain and the European Union. The Windsor Framework, introduced to improve trade flows between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, was initially seen as a major step forward. But recent reports suggest the situation might be far from resolved. A Westminster committee recently heard alarming evidence from businesses and logistics experts that new labeling rules set to come into effect this July could result in significant gaps on the shelves. Nicola Mellon from Logistics UK highlighted the problem clearly. According to Mellon, the Windsor Framework was somewhat oversold to the public as a solution to Northern Ireland's trade issues. While certainly an improvement over previous arrangements, it has not eliminated key problems, particularly the bureaucracy and paperwork involved in trade from Great Britain. In her words, companies based in Great Britain are often unclear about the exact regulations they must follow to continue trading effectively with Northern Ireland. Some companies, overwhelmed by paperwork, cost implications and complexity, have simply decided that trading with Northern Ireland is no longer worth the hassle. This hesitation has already impacted consumers, albeit subtly, due to the hard work companies have done behind the scenes to minimize disruption. But experts warn this hidden effort won't remain invisible for much longer. Neil Johnston, director of the Northern Ireland Retail Consortium, painted an even more vivid picture of what's at stake. He emphasized that supermarkets and businesses aren't trying to illegally push goods across the border into the Republic of Ireland, comparing the scenario humorously to Del Boy and Rodney from the popular British comedy Only Fools and Horses. Johnston argues that major supermarkets without branches south of the border, such as Asda and Sainsbury's, are unfairly burdened with paperwork to prove something that poses virtually no risk. And meanwhile, larger chains like Marc and Spencer and Tesco have invested significantly in advanced tracking technology to comply with these regulations. But even they find themselves tangled in endless bureaucracy, making trade increasingly difficult and cumbersome. Johnston describes the logistical challenges vividly. Supermarkets constantly transport diverse, frequently changing goods. Ensuring compliance isn't a one-time event, it's a never-ending task. And what's particularly worrying is that the real effects haven't fully hit consumers yet. Johnston compares the current situation to a swan gliding gracefully on a lake. Everything appears calm on the surface, but beneath the water, there's furious activity just to keep things moving. Businesses have worked tirelessly, often invisibly, to shield customers from disruption. And yet, as the new labeling rules known as Phase 3 approach in July, the cracks will begin to show. These new regulations are particularly problematic because they require products specifically labeled for Northern Ireland. And this might sound simple, but Johnston pointed out a major practical issue. Supermarkets cannot always dictate to major suppliers and brands that they must specially label products destined solely for Northern Ireland. The UK government claims it has authority to compel suppliers to comply, but there's significant uncertainty about how that will actually happen. And this ambiguity raises the risk that many everyday products could disappear from Northern Irish shelves come July. These aren't specialty items but staple household goods, products consumers have relied upon for years. And the consequence is clear: empty shelves and increased frustration for Northern Irish consumers. Another worrying development is the imminent changes to parcel delivery rules set to come into effect at the end of March. Anne-Marie Murphy from the Northern Ireland Consumer Council noted growing difficulties already experienced by businesses and individuals shipping parcels between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Simple acts like grandparents sending gifts to grandchildren or consumers returning products could become tangled in red tape. In some cases, companies have already stopped deliveries entirely due to complexity or repeated administrative errors. And these stories clearly illustrate the real-world impact of Brexit. Bureaucracy that wasn't fully explained or understood when the decision was made. Brexit has undeniably complicated daily life for people and businesses in Northern Ireland, contradicting many assurances made before the referendum. Yet, despite these serious challenges, there is some cautious optimism. Nicola Mellon mentioned recent positive shifts in tone from the UK government, including increased dialogue and webinars designed to support businesses navigating these rules. But whether this positivity translates into practical improvements remains to be seen. The underlying issue here remains deeply political and of course tied to broader EU-UK relations. The Brexit agreement created a unique status for Northern Ireland, inside the UK's customs territory but closely aligned with the EU single market. While intended to prevent a hard border on the island of Ireland, it has paradoxically introduced a hardening of the so-called Irish Sea border. Political tensions remain high as unionist parties protest this new trade barrier, viewing it as a step towards economic separation from Great Britain. As July nears, we might witness increased political tension and economic strain, particularly if supermarket shelves begin emptying significantly. History reminds us that economic frustration quickly transforms into political dissatisfaction. Northern Ireland's political landscape, already fragile, could once again find itself at a crossroads. As we approach July and the next phase of these rules, we must watch closely. The real test will be whether the government and the EU can find ways to simplify compliance and avoid the scenario that now looms ominously: gaps in supermarket shelves across Northern Ireland. And with that, we've reached the end of today's deep dive, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you see these regulations as necessary protections, or are they just needless red tape harming everyday people? Please share your views in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Outside Views for more detailed analysis and honest discussions on Brexit and its ongoing consequences. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.